Chapter 3374. We're always separated more than together, and we have to worry about each other's safety. Even when I know that you're in danger, I'm burning with anxiety, but I can't rush to your side. Is there such a bitter fiancé in this world? Di Ming's thin lips tighten into a straight line. Mu Yen says again, but Yen you have to believe me, I can do it. Even if there's a mountain of swords and a sea of flames, a dragon's pool or a tiger's den, I will definitely come to your side step by step. At that time, we will never be separated again. The 10 interlocked fingers suddenly clench, so tight that the bones make creaking sounds, so tight that the big and small hands seem to be fusing together. So, you must promise me that you'll obediently wait for me in the Shushan continent to hold your hand again. From then on, even if the seas run dry and the rocks decay, I won't abandon you in life or death. Di Mingju stares blankly at their interlocked hands for a long time, then he suddenly pulls her into his arms. His low, hoarse voice carries a painfully repressed tide of emotions, ringing in Mu Yan's ears. If your life is in danger, even if I have to tear the space apart and become enemies with the heavenly Tao, I will definitely rush over. So Yen, you must protect yourself. Mu Yen nods lightly. Di Mingju goes on, if Han Yi and Ing Mei are on the floating island, you'll become a target instead. I will withdraw all the people from the polar domain. This is exactly what Mu Yen wants to say. It's just that the reason is different. Di Mingju is afraid that she'll become a target. Only now does Mu Yen know that the floating island is an outlying island where order has collapsed. Here, the rules of the heavenly Tao are full of loopholes. And the immortals of the Shushan continent like Di Mingju and Han Yi staying on the floating island are the loopholes of the loopholes. Now, someone has already seized this loophole, planning in every way possible to kill Di Mingju. If Han Yi and Ing Mei stay here to protect her, they'll become the target of wanton attacks. What about Xiao Bao? Mu Yen suddenly asks, will it be dangerous for him to stay on the floating island? Di Mingju shakes his head, no, Xiao Bao was born in the Yinwu continent. He came all the way from the Great Path to the floating island, so he won't be rejected by the heavenly Tao. It might be safer for him to stay here. With that, his big hand gently presses on the top of Mu Yan's head, his eyes are filled with reluctance. Yen, I'll wait for you. As soon as his voice falls, Di Mingju's figure fades, gradually disappearing. Mayan's pupils shrink, her heart feels empty, as if it has been hollowed out. She doesn't know why, but she feels that Di Mingju is very strange this time. Was he really not injured? He gently rotated the void spirit ring between his fingers, feeling the calm energy waves it emitted. Mu Yen breathes a sigh of relief. The void spirit ring didn't respond, so Di Mingju should be fine. Shushan continent, polar domain. The smooth surface of the Qinkuan mirror suddenly rippled like water. The entire space in the room seemed to be distorted. When the guard at the side saw this scene, his heart was filled with joy. He hurriedly shouted, Elder Chang, Lord Xinglang, Lord has returned. Elder Chang, who had been handling government affairs, rushed over. The excited Star Wolf followed behind. Didn't Jun Shang say that he would accompany Miss June and the little Gongzi for at least 3 months? Why are you back so soon? As he spoke, the universe mirror flashed with a dazzling light. Then, 3 figures appeared one after another. Greetings, Lord. Xinglang was about to kneel down excitedly, but his expression suddenly changed. Han Yi, Ing Mei, what's going on? How did you get hurt so badly? Xinglang rushed forward to help Han Yi up, but the latter shook him off. Chapter 3375. His tearful eyes look at Di Mingju, then at Elder Chang. He can't help but hoarsely shout, Call Medicine King, hurry. Save Jun Shang. What? As soon as his voice falls, a black flame bursts out from Di Mingju's chest, making a sizzling sound. What is this? Elder Chang's eyes widened as he exclaimed, "Curse! This is a curse. Jun Shang, how could you be corroded by the curse?" Di Mingju's complexion is deathly pale, there isn't even a drop of blood on his lips. However, there was no trace of emotion on his handsome face. He said calmly, "It's just a curse. There's no need to make a fuss about it. Go and ask Han Chujo to come over. Don't make this matter public for the time being." "Yes, yes," Elder Chang replied with a trembling voice. Then, he stumbled away. Star Wolf's eyes were already red as he gnashed his teeth and said, "Who?" In the end, who dared to hurt Jun Shang? Moreover, curse is a taboo for spirit cultivators. How would they dare to brazenly violate the iron law of the heavenly Tao? Cough, cough, cough. Because the floating island has too many blind spots that the heavenly Tao cannot restrict. Ingmei props herself up and swallows the elixir that Mu Yen gave her. After catching her breath, she says, "Someone knows that June went to the floating island, and deliberately intercepted you there. If it wasn't for Di Mingju's strength being so formidable that it completely exceeded the opponent's imagination. How could he be affected by the decaying curse, just a little bit? If it weren't for Jun Shang's protection, she and Han Yu might not have been able to come back alive this time. How could they have imagined that there was such a secret organization in the Shushan continent that hated the extreme domain to the bone? In order to kill Di Mingju, he didn't even hesitate to bury a quasi-immortal king with him." Di Mingju slightly lowers his long eyelashes, hiding the cold light in his eyes. "Xing Lang, go investigate a person. Daring to separate him and Yan Yan from each other for 3 months. Then be prepared to pay the price." Star Wolf hurriedly knelt down. "Yes. May I ask, who does Jun Shang wish to investigate?" "Netherworld priest, Mu Luyun." Star Wolf was stunned. He didn't even remember who Mu Luyun was at first. Were there priests in the Nether Realm? But he had always been obedient to Di Jun, so he bowed and left without hesitation. Because of Di Mingju's abrupt departure, Mu Yan is no longer in the mood to stay at Mount Spirit Wonder. After a simple farewell to Xiang Yunzhou, he took Ruan Yanan back to Liberty City. However, along the way, Xiaobao suddenly encountered a problem. In the Tian Mo Qin space, the little person's face is flushed. She leans against Mayan's arms, panting painfully. However, no matter how Mu Yan took his pulse and treated him, she couldn't find the cause of his illness. Mayan only feels as if her heart has been thrown into a thicket of thorns. It's tightly constricted, and it's so painful that she can't breathe. "Qi Huang, what happened to Lil Bao?" Her mind was blank as all the bad thoughts flashed through her mind. She even recalled Bailey Inlo's words. An immortal body that was too pure might not live past the age of 10. 7 Brilliance stood in front of Lil Bao and looked down at him with a slight frown. His eyes were filled with doubt. After a long moment passed, he reached out and placed his hand on Little Treasure's forehead. Then he closed his eyes and sensed it. 7 Brilliance. 7 Brilliance opened his eyes and looked at Mayan with a complicated expression. After a long while, he hesitantly said, "It should be nothing. If it's nothing, why would he have a high fever and not wake up?" If Ben Zun didn't sense it wrong, he seems to have been affected by the power of his bloodline. Mayan was startled. The power of his bloodline? What do you mean? Chapter 3376. It's probably because Xiaobao's biological father has suffered a special injury. And their bloodline inheritance is a bit special. Normally, they don't sense each other, but once the inheritance hidden in the bloodline is triggered, there will be a short communication between father and son. Mu Yan is dumbfounded. To be clear, Xiaobao has suffered a part of the pain that stupid trash man is suffering now. Xiaobao's biological father. Mu Yan's mind is in a trance for a moment. That dark and damp cave, the hot breath, the embrace that almost melted her, and the tearing pain, she suddenly clenches her hands, her nails almost deeply embedded in her flesh. Qi Huang sees her suddenly pale complexion, and his mocking and cursing attitude instantly vanishes. His eyes are full of worry. Hey, Jun Mu Yan, are you okay? Mu Yan gently shakes her head. After a long while, she takes a deep breath, touches Xiaobao's forehead, and whispers, "How long will Xiaobao endure the pain?" Qi Huang, I'm not sure, it depends on the severity of the man's injury. But you can rest assured that although Xiaobao is suffering now, this pain is beneficial to him. When he wakes up, there is a great chance that his cultivation will improve, and he might even enter an epiphany. Hearing Qi Huang's words, Mu Yan lets out a long sigh. She holds Xiaobao, who is frowning in pain, in her arms, and gently pats him. Don't be afraid, Xiaobao, Nyangqin is here. No medicine or treatment can have an effect on this kind of empathy triggered by the bloodline inheritance. Mu Yan can only look on helplessly at her darling in pain. Xiaobao opens his eyes in a daze, his mouth spitting out a scorching breath. Nyangqin, Xiaobao, feels uncomfortable. Mu Yan's heart aches. She bends down and gently rubs her face against Xiaobao's burning cheeks. Nyangqin knows that Xiaobao is sick, that's why he feels uncomfortable. Wait until he's well, everything will be fine. Xiaobao stretches out his small hand, grabs the corner of Mu Yan's clothes, and gently pinches it. Xiaobao is sick, Nyangqin, will always be with Xiaobao, right? Mu Yan's eyes redden. Even if Xiaobao is well, Nyangqin will still be with you. Xiaobao shows a careful and happy smile. His ice-blue eyes, which are burning red from the heat, ripple with childish happiness that can't usually be seen. Can Xiaobao also sleep with Nyangqin? It's been a long time since Xiaobao slept with mother. Mu Yan quickly wipes the tears from the corners of her eyes, and kisses him on the forehead. Of course you can. When Xiaobao recovers, Nyangqin will take you shopping, okay? Xiaobao hasn't bought clothes for Nyangqin for a long time. Even the groggy Xiaobao nodded vigorously, and then said in a low voice, actually, Xiaobao bought mothers, fathers, and Xiaobao's, the whole family. Xiaobao likes it, very, very much. The immature voice became softer and softer, and finally fell into a deep sleep in Mayan's arms. His fever, which had not subsided for a long time, also gradually subsided. Mu Yan caresses Xiaobao's blushing little face, her eyes filled with endless tenderness and love. Qi Huang suddenly said, "Who is Xiaobao's biological father?" Mu Yan's expression stagnates, then she curls her lips and says faintly, "It's just an insignificant dead person." Qi Huang shrunk his neck, not daring to ask again. He felt that every word that Mu Yan had just said was filled with murderous intent. Chapter 3377. The next day, Xiaobao's fever was completely gone, but he didn't wake up. Mu Yan landed her flying sword in a town and bought some materials for alchemy. She hadn't entered the King of Medicine's inheritance space since she came to the floating island. At first, she couldn't even open the inheritance space because of the collapse of the space barrier. Later, she was busy building Liberty City and refining her natal sword, so she didn't have time for alchemy. But now Xiaobao was suffering from the pain of blood empathy, his body was weak, and he might need to break through later. She had to prepare a suitable elixir for Xiaobao. This time, she couldn't refine the elixir with spiritual power, but with immortal power. She had to ask her ninth master. This was a small town next to the Redstone River. Although it was only a small town, because it was between the Redstone River and Mankey City, there was an endless stream of cultivators. Even Mu Yan didn't expect that more than half of the elixirs she was looking for were gathered here. I remember that the soul cultivation pool in Mankey City is about to open again. Have you found a companion who can go in with you? Alas, do you think it's so easy to find someone who shares the same mind? Mu Yan, who was about to leave, paused. Soul cultivation pool. If she remembered correctly, when fourth sister's mother Leng Wolan's soul was missing, her father Leng Yaoshan and Leng Zhishuan said that they would take her to the soul cultivation pool on the floating island to repair her soul. If fourth sister came to the floating island, she should go to the soul cultivation pool, right? Mu Yan hesitated whether she should go to the soul cultivation pool first. Just then, she saw a paper crane flying fast and stopping in front of Mu Yan. Mu Yan opened it, and her expression changed slightly. Second brother. How could it be? She didn't stay any longer and called Ruan Yanan to step on the flying sword and rush away. About an hour later, a girl dressed in red and dressed like a young man walked into the same shop as Mu Yan. This shop was the largest and busiest in the whole town. It not only sold elixirs, magic treasures, and various materials, but also people exchanged information and issued employment tasks. Shopkeeper, is the soul cultivation pool nearby? The woman in red knocked on the counter, put a top-grade crystal on the table, and asked in a clear voice. The shopkeeper put away the crystal with a smile and said, "Miss, go all the way east from this town. When you enter a canyon full of colorful immortal willows, you will see the entrance to the soul cultivation pool." Thank you. Seeing the red-clothed woman about to leave, the shopkeeper couldn't help but say, "Miss, please wait a moment." Ahem. Miss, are you planning to go to the soul nurturing pool alone? The woman in red blinked. Yes, is there a problem? This. Miss, you don't live nearby, do you? No one can enter the soul nurturing pool alone. The woman in red was taken aback. Then how do I get in? Rumor has it that the soul nurturing pool was personally built by the first sect leader and sect leader's wife. They even merged their souls into the pool after their deaths. It could be said that the Hongyan sect and the soul nurturing pool symbolized the love between the sect leader and his wife. Thus, the soul nurturing pond has always had a rule. Only a man and a woman whose heart and mind are one with each other are qualified to pass through the spirit formation. I can't pretend, I can't hold a grudge, I can't feign civility, and I can't do it alone. So if you go alone, you definitely won't be able to enter the soul cultivation pool. Damn, I really can't go in alone. Being bounced out of the soul nurturing pool, Ling Yuma was so angry that she wanted to smash the array formation. Chapter 3378. What kind of lousy rule is this? Entering a place to nurture the soul, and entering with a couple. Are they discriminating against single dogs? If only little junior sister was here. No matter how strong the barrier was, it would be broken in a matter of minutes. Ha ha ha, little girl, don't try. The rule of the soul nurturing pool is that only couples can enter, there are no exceptions. If we could enter so easily, why would we wait here? A burst of laughter came from behind. Many temporary houses and sheds were built outside the soul nurturing pool. Most of the people who waited here were there to buy a spoonful of water from the soul nurturing pool. Leaving the soul nurturing pool's water might not be as effective, but it still had the effect of nurturing the soul. But there was a small group of people who were not. And this small group of people were almost all men. Ling Yuma was about to leave and think of a way. However, he was stopped by a few muscular men with wide waists and long legs. Little girl, do you want to enter the soul nurturing pool? You actually came here alone, don't you know that only couples can enter the soul nurturing pool? Why don't you let us help you? You can pick one of us and let's have sex under the rainbow immortal willow for a few days. Wouldn't we be lovers after that? At that time, even if you want to have sex in the soul-nurturing pool, I'm willing to accompany you. Looking at the men's greedy and lustful expressions, Ling Yuma's face turned cold. I'm sorry, I feel nauseous when I see your faces. If you really want to enter the soul-nurturing pool as a couple, I think you might as well go to the pigsty and find one suitable for you. Smelly whore, I'm giving you face, but you don't want it. The three muscular men were enraged. Two of them brought out their magic treasures while the other one summoned a huge brown bear. Ling Yuma's face turned serious. The cultivation of these three people was much higher than the tribulation passing stage. They should have reached the third stage of Golden Immortal. Especially the person who summoned the brown bear, his strength was infinitely close to the fourth stage of Golden Immortal. If it was just one of them, she could barely deal with it. But there were three of them, she definitely could not fight them head-on. Thinking of this, Ling Yuma did not hesitate to stick a teleportation talisman on her body and turn to run. Smelly whore, you want to run? Do you think you can escape? Slut, since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then don't blame me for not knowing how to have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. Ha, big brother, don't be fooled by this whore's virtuous and chaste appearance. After being properly trained by Big Brother, who knows, she might really fall in love with Big Brother's bravery and willingly become Big Brother's mistress. The speed of the three of them was extremely fast. As they spoke, they kept on spewing obscenities. His hands did not slow down in the slightest. Countless poisonous needles containing powerful spiritual energy shot out from time to time. The brown bear's body was heavy, but its movements were extremely agile. Ling Yuma was almost hit a few times and fell from the sky. Roar! With a howl, the brown bear suddenly jumped into the sky. Its huge body fiercely hugged Ling Yuma, who was in the air. Ling Yuma quickly dodged. However, although she avoided the brown bear, she could not avoid the poisonous needle flying behind her. A numbing pain came from her shoulder. She groaned and finally fell from the sky to the ground. Bitch, run. Keep running. Do you really think you can escape from me? Chapter 3379. Ha ha ha, this girl looks really good up close. How long has it been since such a stupid and exquisite thing appeared in front of the soul-nurturing pond? Ling Yuma's heart sank bit by bit. Looking at the three people who were gradually approaching, her eyes revealed a look of determination. However, at this moment, Amitabha, lewdness is the chief of all evils, but those who are against reason and have a guilty conscience, do not say that it is beneficial to do so. Moreover, retribution is clear. If you are not happy at all, every movement and every stillness will be observed by the gods. 10 eyes and 10 hands, everything will be done. Before the three benefactors do evil, please think twice, the gods are watching. A clear and gentle voice rang out in the silent forest for no reason. Ling Yuma looked up and saw a little monk wearing a golden-red kasaya, holding a golden alms bowl in his hands. He put his palms together and looked at the three strong men with a gaze full of admonishment and compassion. Where did this damn monk come from? You dare to meddle in your father's business. If grandfathers like to play with women, then so be it. Could it be that the gods you speak of can control us? How can they control us? Could it be that they are lying on Grandpa's bed and listening? Grandpa is very brave, but he doesn't care at all. Damn monk, hurry up and scram. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite. The little monk chanted Amitabha again. His handsome face was filled with helplessness, but he could not help but continue, benefactors, please think twice. There is no law in this world like a dream. Damn monk, are you courting death? All right, Grandpa will fulfill your wish. The strong man who summoned the brown bear was obviously angered. He glared at him and threw a punch at him. The other two strong men did not want to be outdone and rushed forward fiercely. The little monk shook his head lightly. His slightly rosy lips slightly hooked up, revealing a shallow smile. Ling Yuma, who was paralyzed by the poison needle, had a huge change in expression. Little monk, quickly leave. However, in the next moment, the three strong men who rushed over like cannonballs actually stopped in their tracks. Their raised fists and magic treasures froze in midair. Ling Yuma was stunned. What was going on? She did not see that the little monk's eyes were dyed with a golden red color that was almost the same as the kasaya. When Ling Yuma raised her head, the little monk's face had already regained its youthful benevolence and gentleness. Amitabha, it's good that you're able to realize your mistakes and mend your ways. I hope that you'll turn over a new leaf in the future and abandon evil for good. Buddha will always be with you. The three burly men nodded like puppets, and then left as if they were flying. Ling Yuma was dumbstruck by this turn of events. Why did they run? The small monk smiled and said, "They have realized their mistakes. Are you kidding me?" Ling Yuma rolled her eyes and sized up the young and handsome monk from head to toe. You can't be a disciple of some big sect or family on this floating island, right? The more Ling Yuma thought about it, the more she felt that it was right. Those three people must have sensed that this little monk had an extraordinary background and couldn't afford to offend him, so they fled. The little monk didn't answer her question. Instead, he maintained a faint and gentle smile. Ling Yuma did not ask about his identity. Instead, she took out an antidote pill and swallowed it. Soon, the numbness on her shoulder disappeared. She stood up and bounced. Then, she bowed deeply to the little monk. Thank you, Master, for saving my life. May I ask for Master's name and sect? I can't thank you with words, but I must repay you. Chapter 3380. Female benefactor, you're too polite. The little monk seemed to be a little flustered by her solemnity. His handsome face unconsciously turned red. I'm Jing Yuan. I don't belong to any sect. I just spoke out to stop evil. I didn't do anything. Benefactor, you don't have to be so polite. Ling Yuma was a little amused by his reaction. The little monk looked younger than her. He had red lips and white teeth. When he smiled, there was actually a shallow dimple on his left cheek. It reminded her of Xiao Qi. Thinking of Xiao Qi and her junior sister, Ling Yuma thought of the soul cultivation pool. Tisk, why is it so difficult to enter the soul cultivation pool? Otherwise, I'll go find my junior sister first. Hearing Ling Yuma talking to herself, Jing Yuan showed a slightly surprised expression. Benefactor, are you also going to the soul cultivation pool? Could it be that the little monk? Ahem, Master, are you also going to the soul cultivation pool? Jing Yuan nodded. This time, I'm floating in the sky. I'm here for two things. One of them is to get some water from the soul cultivation pool. Ling Yuma pointed to the road. Look, the soul cultivation pool is over there. But you can't go in alone. If you want water from the soul nurturing pond, you can just wait outside and buy some from other people when they come out. Jing Yuan was stunned. I can't go in. Why? The water from the soul cultivation pool that he wanted must be drawn from the pool on the spot and put into a special container on the spot. Otherwise, the effect of the soul cultivation pool would be reduced by more than half. What use would it be to him? Seeing his clueless look, Ling Yuma couldn't help but laugh. So you don't know the rules of the soul cultivation pool? Excuse me, what are the rules? Only couples or couples who are connected are allowed to pass through the enchantment outside the soul cultivation pool. Others may have hope, but not you, little monk. Jing Yuan was dumbfounded. He never thought that there would be such a rule in the soul cultivation pool. He frowned slightly, revealing a difficult expression. It was easy to break the enchantment on the floating island. But in this way, it would violate his master's instruction to not be discovered by anyone. Moreover, the soul energy in the soul cultivation pool was weak. Breaking the enchantment might destroy the pond inside. Jing Yuan frowned. Is there really no other way to enter the soul nurturing pool? Ling Yuma turned her head and saw the little monk's sad and disappointed expression. She couldn't help but ask, is entering the soul nurturing pool very important to you? The small monk nodded. My master suffered a serious injury many years ago. It took him a long time to recover. Now, it's time for him to heal his soul, but the magic treasures we use to heal souls aren't pure enough. I'm afraid that my master's body won't be able to take it, so I want to bring the water from the soul-nurturing pond back. Ling Yuma muttered, I also want to enter the soul-nurturing pool, maybe my mother is inside. She sighed softly. If pretending to be a couple is useful, I'll pretend to be a couple with you. As long as we can enter, it's fine. Hearing this, Jing Yuan had an idea. He raised his head and asked, Female benefactor, are you really willing to pretend to be a couple with this little monk? What? Ling Yuma was dumbfounded. She was just casually saying it. Didn't I make myself clear? The barrier of the soul nurturing pool can only be passed by couples who are truly connected. The little monk put his palms together and revealed a somewhat bashful smile. I have my own ways to deal with this. Chapter 3381. Carefree City, Floating Island. Just as the 7 Absolute Sword landed on the ground, Luo Yu ran over hurriedly. Mu Yan didn't even take a breath. She quickly asked, Is there news about second senior brother? What do you mean by second senior brother is in danger? Luo Yu presented the paper in her hand to Mu Yan. Take a look, 6th senior apprentice sister. We discovered this in Jade Sea City. Mu Yan takes the paper and reads it. Her pupils can't help but shrink. It turned out to be a wanted poster. 1 country, 3 alliances, 6 clans, and 8 great sects, the wave-treading palace, issued a wanted order to the dozens of surrounding towns and cities. To catch the thief who stole their human puppet. On the wanted poster, there was a portrait of their second senior, Qin Zhou. Second senior brother is a thief. How is that possible? In the entire Xiaoyao sect, if there was anyone who wasn't scheming, shrewd, or mischievous, it would have to be their honest second senior brother. Back in the Merak Mountains, when second senior brother was humiliated and framed by the people from the Silver Plume Palace, he did not resist much. Even if you beat Mayan to death, she wouldn't believe that second senior brother would steal from others. Luo Yu said angrily, It must be this group of people who are distorting the truth and bullying second Shixiang. How dare you bully the second brother of the Xiaoyao sect? You must be tired of living. As they spoke, Wei Mian, Zhou Zixuan, and the others hurried over. Greetings, Miss. Miss, did your trip go smoothly? Maya nods. I'm indebted to Union Master Xiang for refining my natal sword. Now it's already a great success. The way Wei Mian looks at Mayan is already brimming with amazement, as if he's looking at a monster. Being able to make the Alliance Master of the Sacred Heaven Alliance personally practice with the sword. Moreover, in just a few short days, Mrs. Cultivation had actually broken through from the mortal cultivation realm to the mysterious life realm. No, it wasn't just Miss who was strong. There were also his 2 fellow disciples. Especially, Wei Mian could not help but look at Luo Yu again, his expression a little dazed. Zi Shun, I'll have to trouble you with something. Mu Yan looked at the wanted poster in her hand and said in a deep voice. Zhou Zixuan hurriedly bowed. Please instruct me, Mississippi, help me issue a summoning order in the surrounding towns. Order to assemble. This subordinate, what should I write on it? You only need to write one sentence, Liberty City by the ocean viewing cliff. It's time to go home. Zhou Zixuan was stunned for a long time before he bowed and agreed. After Zhou Zixuan left, Wei Mian asked, is young Miss going to clash with over the Wave Palace? Mu Yan curled her lips and sneered, if people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If they don't provoke me, then naturally, they'll be fine. But if they dare to bully my eldest senior brother, after a pause, she looked at Wei Mian, is General Wei afraid of going up against one of the 8 great sects? Ha ha ha. Wei Mian couldn't help but laugh out loud. His face was filled with disdain and lofty sentiments. Towering Wave Palace is ranked last among the 8 great sections. On the other hand, our Xiaoyao army has sparing no effort to support us. In terms of military strength, we may be slightly inferior to them. But there's one thing that the treading Wave Palace can't compare to us. What is it? Crown Wei retracted his gaze and said in a deep voice, we have a unique divine battle general, but Towering Wave Temple doesn't. Mu Yan stares blankly at first, then she can't help but laugh out loud. It seemed like this General Wei was quite arrogant, but she liked it. Only such a person was qualified to protect Shao Qi. Luo Yu, go with General Wei to study the strength and strengths of Towering Wave Palace. Luo Yu stared blankly, a little unable to react. Usually, 6th senior sister called him Shao Qi. Suddenly calling him Luo Yu was very uncomfortable. Chapter 3382. When Wei Mian heard Luo Yu's name, he trembled and looked at the young man in disbelief. What is your name? Luo Yu blinked, not understanding why General Wei's expression was so shocked. He replied, my name is Lan Luo Yu. Wei Mian felt a loud bang in his head, his knees almost gave way and he was about to kneel down. Lan Luo Yu. Lan Luo Yu, their little highness. Was it really their little highness? He was still alive, he was still alive. One of the 8 great families of the floating island, over the Wave Palace, was located in Xiaoluo City, surrounded by mountains on 3 sides and water on one side. Directly north of Xiaoluo City was a smooth cliff with no end in sight. It was called Broken Sky Cliff. Broken Sky Cliff, and Sea Cliff, where Autumn River Pavilion, one of the 8 great families, were connected. In the middle, there was a drunken evening forest, filled with red maple trees. At this time, in the drunken evening forest, a man was carrying a girl on his back and running with all his might. Heavy panting and unsuppressible moans of pain echoed in the empty and silent forest. The man's clothes were tattered and his body was covered with wounds of various sizes. But the most terrifying thing was the bloody wound on his head. It was 7 or 8 inches long, extending from his left ear to his right temple. It was as if someone had used a knife to cut open his entire head. At this time, this wound was casually sewn up with coarse thread. As he ran, bright red blood and white liquid would seep out from time to time. The man had an ordinary appearance and looked a little silly. He was the kind of person that people wouldn't even look at if he was thrown into a crowd. But the girl on his back was a beauty that people couldn't take their eyes off. Her small face was only the size of a palm, her nose was exquisite, her eyebrows were like smoke, her teeth were white, her lips were red, and her skin was smooth. At this time, the girl was quietly lying on the man's back, tears welling up in her eyes. She looked at the man with eyes full of guilt and heartache. The trees in front of them became sparse, and it didn't take long for it to open up. A sparkling lake appeared in front of the two. The girl reached out and patted the man's shoulder, her small mouth slightly opened, making a sound. The man hesitated, as if he wanted to continue forward, but under the constant patting of the young girl, he stopped. He found a clean rock and carefully put the girl on his back down. After landing, the young girl gestured with her hands, a worried expression on her face. However, the man understood what she meant. Second brother Chin, we've been running for a long time, but they haven't caught up. Shall we take a rest by the lake? You're injured so badly, you need to be treated immediately. It turned out that the girl was mute. At this moment, the man standing in front of her immediately understood the meaning of her strokes. It was the second senior of the Xiaoyao school, Qin Zhou, whom Mu Yan and Luo Yu were looking for. Seeing the young girl's actions, Qin Zhou nodded her head and took out 2 medicinal pills from her bosom. She swallowed one and handed the other to the young girl. Little Qin, eat it. The medicinal pill refined by junior sister is very good. The girl called Little Qin was called Enchanting. Hearing this, she revealed a bashful smile and reached out to take the pill from Qin Zhou's hand. During this time, the girl's slender and fair fingertips touched the man's rough palm. Enchanting blushed and hurriedly pulled back, putting the pill into her mouth. The injuries on her body began to heal after the pill took effect. But the hideous scar on her forehead didn't show any signs of healing. Thinking of this possibility, Qin Zhou felt a tightness in her chest. He subconsciously did not want to think about it. When Enchanting handed over the roasted food, Qin Zhou revealed a silly smile and took it. The girl opposite him was also holding a piece of roasted wing in her hand. But she was not in a hurry to eat. Instead, she blinked her watery almond-shaped eyes, staring at Qin Zhou without blinking. Qin Zhou was indeed hungry. After wolfing down a few mouthfuls, he realized that the little girl had been looking at him. He was startled. He, who had always been slow and silly, suddenly seemed to have an aperture opened at this moment. Chapter 3384. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. Qin Zhou said loudly, it's delicious. Little Qing's roasted food is the best. The little girl on the other side immediately smiled. Joy and happiness almost overflowed from her eyes. But she felt shy, so she hid half of her face behind the big roasted wing. While laughing, she ate delicately, 1 bite at a time. Qin Zhou suddenly felt that it would be good if it could continue like this. But at this moment, an intense pain came from his brain. Qin Zhou screamed and fell to the ground, his body twitching non-stop. Ah! Ah ah! Enchanting threw away the roasted wing in her hand, rushed over in panic, and helped Qin Zhou up. However, what she saw was the completely opened wound on Qin Zhou's head, and his increasingly blurred and white eyes. When this pair of eyes completely turned white and lost their luster, that was when he was completely puppet-like. Enchanting opened her mouth, wanting to speak, wanting to call out to her second brother, but she couldn't even make a sound. Suddenly, the bone whistle on Enchanting's waist made a beeping sound, shaking non-stop. Oh no! They're coming. If second brother was captured by them, he would become a real puppet, never to be reincarnated. What should I do? She couldn't let second brother fall into the hands of this group of people again, absolutely not. The weakness on the girl's face faded little by little. She gritted her teeth and used her fastest speed to dig a hole under a huge rock by the lake. Then, she buried Qin Zhou. Qin Zhou opened his eyes in a daze. He saw the pale girl with tears in the corner of her eyes, but she tried her best to smile and draw towards him. Second brother, promise me, wait here for little Qing. Don't come out, no matter what happens, don't come out, okay? Qingjiu opened his mouth, wanting to speak. The girl's tears finally couldn't help but fall. Second brother, I beg you, promise little Qing, okay? Qingjiu's consciousness was already blurred. In his chaotic mind, there was only the girl's tears and the word, please, drawn with a trembling hand. Little Qing, don't cry. As long as you don't cry, I promise anything. The bone whistle on his waist vibrated even more violently. In the distance, he could already hear noisy footsteps and the roars of summoned beasts. They must not find out that second brother is here. Qing made a camouflage of the filled pit, then hurriedly rushed to the dense forest on the left. D. Not long after, the sharp sound of a bone whistle came from the left side of the forest. The people who had just rushed to the lakeside heard the whistle and were overjoyed. It's that little bitch Qing's bone whistle. He's over there, chase after him. Qing glanced at the lake in the distance, then ran forward resolutely. She couldn't fly, so she couldn't escape no matter what. But at least second elder brother still had a chance to live. Second brother, it was you who protected me 15 years ago. Now, it's my turn to protect you. Please, you must live well. As the crowd left, the lakeside regained its silence. After a long time, a loud explosion suddenly came from the bottom of the rock. The huge boulder was blasted into pieces. Gravel and mud flew into the sky and fell down like rain. Amidst the rain of rocks, a man covered in blood and mud stood up shakily. There was a huge wound on his head, and the skull and brain inside were faintly visible. His eyes had almost turned a strange white color. Chapter 3385. At this time, Qingjiu looks like a corpse, not a living person. But he shakily stands up, turning his head mechanically, as if looking for something. Shao Qing, where is Shao Qing? He's going to find Shao Qing. He takes a step, but suddenly stops. No. Shao Qing told him to wait for her here. He has to wait, even if he dies, he has to wait for Shao Qing to come back. Bang! Amidst the training of the Xiaoyao army, a person covered in blood suddenly falls down. Even if these soldiers have been trained to remain calm, even if Mbutai collapses in front of them under these months of devilish training, they are still shocked at this time. What's going on? That's a 1,000-meter-high cliff, falling like this, isn't she dead? Hey, it seems to be a little girl, all the bones in her body are broken. So pitiful. All of you, be quiet. Iron Hammer roars, and the originally noisy army immediately becomes so quiet that a pin drop can be heard. What's all this noise about? What's all this noise about? Have you forgotten the qualities that the boss taught you soldiers should have? Whoever makes a fuss again, I'll double the amount of training. The surrounding people keep quiet out of fear. Iron Hammer snorts coldly. Looking at the bloody person under the cliff, he can't help but frown. You guys carry her to the city lord's mansion. Iron Hammer points at a few female cultivators. If the miss is willing to save her, it can be considered as having picked up a life. If the miss is not willing, you can directly throw her out of the city. In fact, the people who came out of the gravel hill, including Iron Hammer, did not have much sympathy. But the woman in front of them is so miserable that people can't help but want to pity her. Looking at her bones, she should be in her early 20s, so thin and delicate. But all the bones in her body are broken, and the exposed skin is full of poisonous insect bites. Moreover, these scars are deep and shallow, clearly not caused by falling from the cliff, but man-made. Iron Hammer shakes his head, throwing these boring thoughts to the back of his mind. No matter how pitiful she is, it has nothing to do with him. This little girl only has half a breath left, it's estimated that even the mist may not be able to save her. If she really dies, it can only be said that her fate is bad. Someone fell from the cliff. Hearing her subordinates report, Mayan shows a surprised expression. Bring him in. When the bloody man and the blood-soaked stretcher enter the room, Mayan and Luo Yu's faces change. How did he get hurt so badly? Wasn't everyone on the floating island at the nascent soul stage or above? Even if he didn't fall from the cliff, it's impossible for all the bones in his body to be broken like this. Mu Yan grasps her pulse and calmly examines her for a while before coldly saying, the bones in her body weren't broken by falling off a cliff, but by someone forcibly breaking them inch by inch. Luo Yu sucked in a breath of cold air. Which pervert is so cruel? Then the bite wounds on her body. Those densely packed wounds would make one's scalp go numb. It was to the extent that her true appearance could no longer be seen clearly. One could imagine what kind of pain and torment this young girl, who was not even 20 years old, had suffered. Sixth senior sister, can she still be saved? Mu Yan stuffs an elixir into her mouth, then takes out the Tian Mo Chin. While plucking the strings with her fingers, she says, I'll first protect her heart, keeping her alive. As for whether she can really be saved, and whether she can still cultivate like a normal person after being saved, they can only resign themselves to fate. Chapter 3386. The sound of the zither slowly resounds, from agitation to lingering, from endless torrents to weeping. The girl on the bed moans in pain and slowly opens her eyes. The fear and despair in her eyes makes Luoyu's heart ache. He comforts her softly, Miss, don't be afraid, my sixth sister will save you. You'll definitely be fine, ah, ah, ah. The girl opens her cracked lips and lets out a hoarse and broken voice. Tears keep flowing from her eyes, desperately trying to express something. However, she can't say anything. Hey, don't move. Right now, your bones are broken one after another. How are you going to move again? However, the girl only cries as she draws something with her pen, her mouth constantly making ah sounds. That sound is coarse and unpleasant, but it's like a bird crying blood, making people feel unspeakably sad. Mu Yan suddenly asks, do you want to ask us for help? The girl's eyes shine with hope and she nods heavily. Mu Yan asks again, you can't speak, but can you understand what we're saying? The girl nods again. Mu Yan thinks for a moment, Shao Qi, go and call third brother over. Chu Moli quickly pushes the wheelchair over and looks at the girl's drawing. He smiles slightly, she wants us to go to the lake to save someone. Be quick, otherwise it'll be too late. She doesn't know the specific address, but it's in the southeast of Zuewan Forest. That person is buried under the biggest rock by the lake. Mu Yan is startled, save someone. This girl is on the verge of death herself, yet she still wants to save someone. However, Mu Yan's heart softens when she raises her head and meets those clear almond-shaped eyes full of pleading. She says without hesitation, okay, I'll immediately send someone to Zuewan Forest to look. Don't worry, your injuries are very serious. You must receive proper treatment. Seeing her agree, the girl shows a gratified and grateful smile on her face. Finally, she can't hold on any longer and fainted. Luoyu raises his hand, sixth sister, I'll go. Mu Yan thinks for a moment, all right. Shao Qi, bring some men. To be able to torture a little girl like this, the other party is definitely not a good person. You must be careful. Luoyu, sixth sister, rest assured, I understand. Hearing that Luoyu was going to the drunken evening forest to look for someone, Wei Mian, who was training his troops, abandoned his tens of thousands of men without hesitation. Butcher, bring a team of elites and follow me to protect little, seventh young master. Butcher was confused. Seventh young master has just transferred some people from the ninth squad over. How could that bunch of trash from Team 9 protect the seventh young master? Cut the crap and follow me. Butcher. Was this impatient person in front of him really the boss who had always been lazy, who didn't show his emotions even when he was paralyzed? Also, why did boss suddenly pay so much attention to seventh young master? Even Luo Yu felt that it was strange. In fact, Uncle Wei had been taking special care of him since he arrived at Liberty City. During this period of time, her eyes were often glued to him. He looked as if he wanted to say something but was hesitant. Seventh young master, are your parents still alive? Luo Yu heaved a sigh of relief when she heard Wei Mian's careful question. Uncle Wei, don't call me seventh young master anymore. Just call me Shao Qi like sixth sister does. Luo Yu smiled. I've never seen my parents. From the time I can remember, it was my master and eldest brother who raised me. Chapter 3387. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. Wei Mian anxiously asks, who is your master? Luo Yu gives him a meaningful look, then slowly says, my master lives in the Shuzhen continent. His name is Shi Qing. Hearing the unfamiliar name, Wei Mian shows a lost expression. Looking at the youth's familiar face, he can't help but feel hopeful. Is the person in front of him really His Little Highness? Is he the savior of the floating island that contracted the mythological beast Bai Zhe? Perhaps the miss knows something. Wei Mian feels that when Mayan called out the name Luo Yu that day, she looked at him with a meaningful gaze. He can't be anxious right now. 20 years had passed, so what was this little bit of suffering compared to it? His Little Highness's safety is the most important. Luo Yu smiles and asks, Uncle Wei, you're so powerful as a general. Where did you work before? The Three Alliances, the Six Great Families, or the Lan Family Empire. Wei Mian's mind, which had just relaxed, suddenly tenses up again. He looks at Luo Yu nervously, his breathing unconsciously becoming rough. But before he can say anything, a shout suddenly comes from a distance. There's someone there, that little slut Yin Chu Qing might be hiding there. Along with the voice, the sound of hurried footsteps and the rustling of leaves as they fly quickly approach. After seeing Luo Yu and the others clearly, they immediately show a disappointed and dissatisfied expression. Who are you people? What are you doing sneaking around in the drunken evening forest? The one speaking is a young cultivator with oily hair and powdered face. His gaze sweeps over Luo Yu, Wei Mian, and the clearly well-trained guards behind them, his face full of suspicion. Luo Yu rolls her eyes. What does it matter to you what we do? I think that this drunken evening forest doesn't seem to belong to any sect or family, right? I like to wander around here, or fight dogs, what do you care? The Xiao Yao army behind them, pfft. The young cultivator stares blankly at first, then realizes that he's calling him a dog. He immediately becomes angry from embarrassment. Little bastard, do you know who you're talking to? Believe it or not, I'll make you. He hasn't finished speaking when he's stopped by a middle-aged man dressed like a scholar. The man's expression was gentle and refined, but he had a hooked nose, which made his face look a bit hypocritical and ruthless. He cupped his hands toward Luo Yu and Wei Mian and said, I'm Jiang Zhulin of the Over-the-Wave Palace. May I know which sect you two are from and what are you doing in the drunken evening forest, which is so desolate? The drunken evening forest was located at the top of a 10,000-meter tall cliff. The spiritual energy there was thin, and spirit beasts were extinct. Even flying at low altitudes could only be done at a low speed. Ordinary people would not come to this place without any reward. Luo Yu smiled innocently, and there was even a hint of worship in her eyes. So it's one of the 8 great sects, over the Wave Palace. For people like us who came from small sects to be able to meet such great people like you, it is really a blessing of 3 lifetimes. The young cultivator immediately laughed complacently. Hee, you flatter us the moment you hear that we're from the surmounting Wave Palace. Who is the dog here? Luo Yu smiled nonchalantly. I am a dog. I'm a dog. The young cultivator felt refreshed, and even his chin was raised high. Jiang Zhulin, on the other hand, slightly narrowed his eyes and still asked gently, We're in this drunken evening forest looking for the thief who stole our sect's treasure. Did you see him? As he spoke, he directly took out the arrest warrant for Qin Zhou. He continued, This thief not only stole a commander-level puppet, but also kidnapped the daughter of the Lord of the Over-the-Wave Palace. This is an unforgivable crime. If you know his whereabouts, please tell us. Chapter 3388. Luo Yu looked at the arrest warrant in his hand and lowered his eyes. His gaze was cold, but he was still smiling innocently, like a young noble who had run away from home. He tilted his head and looked at the warrant, hesitating. I think I've seen him before, but I don't think I've seen him before. What? You've seen that thief. Quick, tell me, where did you see him? Luo Yu pretended to be hesitant. I saw a man and a woman at the other end of Drunken Evening Forest. The woman seemed to be heavily injured and was covered in blood. The man was tall, but his side was facing me, so I didn't see him clearly. As he spoke, he pouted and showed an unhappy expression. It's all because you didn't allow me to watch the show, Uncle Wei. I didn't see that man's face clearly. Uncle Wei had a doting expression. Young master, that man was filled with a bloody aura. You came out to train and have fun. There's no need for us to provoke such a fiend. Master. The young man trembled with excitement. It's Qin Zhou, it must be Qin Zhou and Yin Chu Qing. This time, even Jiang Chulin couldn't remain calm. Young master, do you remember where those 2 people are? Luo Yu pretended to recall and said hesitantly, This drunken evening forest is full of twists and turns. I really can't tell you which direction it is. But I can control the little puppet that leads the way. As long as you follow me, we'll definitely find that place. As he spoke, a palm-sized bee flapped its wings and appeared in the air. I heard that Treading Wave Temple is best at puppets. Today, I can be considered to have helped several seniors, so I don't want the reward on the wanted poster. Can Senior Jiang introduce me into the Over-the-Wave Palace? Even Jiang Chulin, who was shrewd, couldn't help but reveal a proud expression. If you can really lead us to that audacious thief, introducing you to the towering Wave Palace will be as easy as turning over a hand. An hour later. We're here. Look at that drunken Wanfeng in front. I saw the man and woman there. Hearing Luo Yu's agitated voice, Jiang Chulin hurriedly led everyone from the towering Wave Palace over to investigate. There are indeed traces of cultivators here. But their auras are very mixed. It seems like there are more than 2 people. Could it be that someone else found them first? As they were discussing, they heard a low chuckle coming from behind them. Of course the auras here are very heterogeneous, because there are not 2 people at all. Shaw shaw shaw. The surrounding Zui Wanfeng let out the sound of leaves rubbing against each other. Immediately after, cultivators wearing the same clothes as the young guard walked out of the forest one by one. 10, 20, 100, 500, 1,000. Everyone was wearing the same clothes. Every single one of them landed on the ground without a sound, moving forward and stopping at the same time, their auras coming from the same source. Jiang Chulin's expression changed drastically, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. This How could this be the bodyguard of an aristocratic young master from some small sect? This was a well-trained army. Who the hell are you? Of course it's someone who wants your lives. Luo Yu pinched the way-guiding bee and looked on casually. The corners of her mouth curled into a faint smile, and her two dimples could be faintly seen. Are you crazy? We're from Treading Wave Temple. If you dare to touch us, aren't you afraid? Before he could finish shouting, Luo Yu had already raised her hand and gently slid down from the air, making a beheading gesture. Chapter 3389. In the next moment, the 1,000 cultivators in the forest moved at the same time. Jiang Chulin's expression was extremely gloomy. But he didn't care about these 1,000 soldiers. Almost every one of them was only at the mortal cultivation realm. If they wanted to keep him, a peak profound life realm cultivator, they would need to see if they had the ability to do so. But he didn't see that behind Luo Yu, Wei Mian's eyes lit up with a silver light, his pupils dilating and focusing. 15 minutes later. There was a large hole in Jiang Chulin's chest. He slowly fell down with his eyes wide open. Even in death, he didn't understand. How could he die? He was a peak profound life realm expert. Even if he couldn't win against a group of mortal cultivation realm cultivators, he could at least escape. But why did he realize that he had no way to escape from the start of the battle? Besieged on all sides and in despair, he could only face, Battle General. That was an army with a Battle General commanding them. This was the last thought in Jiang Chulin's mind. Luo Yu walked forward and saw the corpses of towering Wave Palace cultivators on the ground. His face darkened and his eyes showed some anxiety. He vaguely had a bold guess. The person that the young lady who fell from the cliff and almost lost her life wanted to save might be his second senior brother. Uncle Wei, we have to be quick. I'm afraid my second senior brother is in danger. Wei Mian nodded, his voice gentle with a hint of respect. Seventh young master, don't worry. We will send everyone out. Even if we have to turn the entire Drunken Evening Forest upside down, we will definitely find him. On the other side of the Drunken Evening Forest. Elder Zhao, we found him. It's a human puppet. An excited voice sounded. Zhao Rong, who was using his divine sense to explore, heard this, and his eyes lit up. He hurried over. Looking at Qin Zhou, who was sitting beside a rock with his eyes covered, Zhao Rong couldn't help but laugh excitedly. Our towering Wave Palace's only monarch-level human puppet is finally in our hands, ha 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 ha. On the floating island, there was a special type of cultivators called Spirit Masters. Spirit Masters were usually split into two types, Summoners and Puppet Masters. Whether it was the spirit beasts summoned by summoners or the puppets created by puppet masters, they were all split into 5 levels. Normal ranked, elite ranked, commander ranked, monarch ranked, dominator. On the floating island, no one had ever seen a sovereign, summoned beast or puppet. There were only a few overlord level beasts. The strength of the Over the Wave Palace was at the bottom of the 6 families and 8 sections. That was because they were only good at puppets. The puppets that they could manufacture and control were only at the commander level. 14 years. A whole 14 years. Zhao Rong held a black bone whistle in his hand. His eyes were shining with unspeakable resentment. Suddenly, he lifted his leg and kicked Qin Zhou to the ground. Lowly thing. Back then, my surmounting Wave Palace had to expend countless treasures and lives just to create you. A mere human puppet actually dared to run. How dare he run? Do you think you can escape from the control of the soul-making whistle? After Qin Zhou was kicked to the ground, it seemed as if it didn't feel anything. It sat up in a daze and continued to lean against the rock. Zhao Rong took a few deep breaths before saying, "Inform everyone around the drunken evening forest that we found the puppet. Our contribution this time is too great. It's mainly because of Elder Zhao's leadership." Zhao Rong's face revealed a bit of pride. He picked up the black whistle and blew it. "Come, let's return to Surmounting Wave Palace." The surrounding disciples hurriedly took out their flying swords and soared into the sky. Chapter 3390. However, after flying for several meters, Zhao Rong suddenly felt that something was wrong. The human puppet didn't follow. He suddenly turned his head and saw that Qin Jiu was still sitting beside the rock, like a lifeless puppet. But if he looked at his movements, he would discover that his hands were firmly locked into the rock, his body slightly trembling, unwilling to move a single step. What's going on? His appearance has clearly been completely puppetized. The soul-making whistle should be able to control him. Zhao Rong flew over with a sullen face and blew the bone whistle again. "Human puppet 122, follow me." He clearly saw that Qin Jiu's body below trembled, as if about to stand up. However, the next moment, his body that was about to move was restrained by his hands that were firmly inserted into the rock. He cannot leave. Xiao Qing had said to let him wait here for her. If he left, what would Xiao Qing do if she couldn't find him? Elder Zhao, this? It's already been so long, could it be that he still hasn't been puppetized? Zhao Rong's expression turned ugly as he gritted his teeth and said, "Break his fingers and take him away. He's clearly a puppet of my towering wave temple, yet he dares to rebel against his master." The disciple under him responded, "Yes." Their actions were very simple and crude, directly taking out an iron rod imbued with spiritual power and ruthlessly smashed it towards Qin Jiu's hands. Crack! Crack! The sound of bones breaking rang out one after another. Everyone who heard it felt their hairs stand on end. But Qin Jiu, whose hands had been broken, seemed to not feel it at all. However, when the people of Towering Wave Temple threw out the immortal binding demand to pull him up from the ground, his eyes, which were covered with white veil, overflowed with a trace of bone-chilling scarlet. "Ah! Bastard, you actually dare to bite me. What the hell, just a mere human puppet." Zhao Rong's face was cold as he expressionlessly said, "Pull out all his teeth. Next, if he uses his hands to resist, cut off his hands. If he uses his feet to resist, cripple his feet. In any case, he's just a puppet. When the time comes, think of a way to replace him. Since his soul is still lingering in this body and refuses to dissipate, I'll let him have a good taste of what it's like to be unable to live or die." The disciples of Towering Wave Palace nodded repeatedly. Someone leaned over to pry open Qin Jiu's mouth. Someone took out a pair of pliers and walked towards Qin Jiu with an evil grin. At this moment, there was a loud bang. The drunken evening forest was surrounded by strong winds and huge waves. Zhao Rong's complexion changed drastically. He instinctively used his divine sense to summon several huge puppets to block in front of him. The screams of the disciples and the shattering of the puppets could be heard. When the gale dissipated, Zhao Rong saw the scene in front of him clearly. His pupils constricted and his hair stood on end. 1,000 people. They were actually surrounded by 1,000 people. As for the disciples of Towering Wave Palace that he had brought with him, all of them had suffered injuries of varying degrees. "Who are you? Why did you attack my Towering Wave Palace?" Zhao Rong had just finished speaking when he saw a handsome youth descend in front of Qin Jiu. Seeing that Qin Jiu was covered in cuts and bruises and had lost his divine soul, Zhang Xian was stunned. Luo Yu's eyes were about to split open. The anger in his chest almost caused him to lose control of his rationality. Second senior brother. He squatted down to help Qin Jiu up. Finally, He could not hold back his tears and dripped onto his face. Second senior brother, how did you get injured to this extent? Chinjo's eyes were wide open, but his pupils were covered with a layer of white veil. He turned a deaf ear to Luo Yu's words, completely like a puppet. Chapter 3391. Luo Yu panicked and pressed on Chinjo's heart. Only after confirming that he still had a heartbeat did she heave a sigh of relief. Second senior brother, don't be afraid. I'll take you to sixth senior sister immediately. Sixth senior sister is so powerful. She'll definitely be able to cure you. Right now, I'll make those who hurt you pay 100 times, 1,000 times the price. Luo Yu slowly stood up and looked coldly at Zhao Rong and the others. He didn't notice. Chinjo's fingers by his side moved slightly. A tear seemed to flow down from the corner of his eyes. His tightly pursed lips also relaxed. It's Shao Qi. Shao Qi is here, great, he's back at the Carefree sect. He's home. Zhao Rong stared at Luo Yu and said sternly, who are you? I'm Elder Zhao of Overwave Temple. This person is a thief who stole an important person from Overwave Temple. You're so close to him. Are you an accomplice of the thief? Luo Yu looked at Zhao Rong and the others as if she was looking at dead people. What's the use of knowing whether they are accomplices or not? You're going to die soon anyway. Impudent. You dare speak to Elder Zhao like that? Kid, don't be too arrogant. Do you think you can stop us with this 1,000-man army? The army is strong, but if we just want to escape, you might not be able to stop us. Once we return to Towering Wave Hall, what awaits you is a miserable doomsday. As an elder of Overwave Temple, Zhao Rong's cultivation had reached the mountain opening realm. The 1,000-man army was indeed troublesome, but he didn't believe he couldn't escape. But the next moment, Zhao Rong saw a red soul pearl appear behind the youth's back. The giant Defying divine beast spread its wings in the air and let out a crisp cry that shook thousands of miles. After summoning the Defying divine beast, Luo Yu took out the puppets in his storage space one by one. They were just low-level elite puppets. At first, Zhao Rong didn't care at all. But when the puppets went from 10 to 100 to 2,000 to 3,000, the people of Overwave Temple were completely dumbfounded. But it wasn't over yet. At the same time, the surrounding Zui Wanfeng, rocks, grass huts, snakes, insects, rats, and ants seemed to be attracted by some power and started to gather around the youth. Slowly, they formed one puppet after another. Zhao Rong had never seen so many puppets in his life. It was as if the entire mountain was filled with an army of puppets. Luo Yu said, Uncle Wei, leave the puppet to me and the person to you. I want these bastards who hurt my second senior brother to die without a burial place. Wei Mian stared blankly at this scene for a long time, his eyes slightly red. Suddenly, he knelt on one knee and bowed, as you command. Yes, Your Highness. In the City Lord's residence of Carefree City, the Treading Wave Temple's human puppets are said to be humanoid puppets made from special materials. However, many people knew that these puppets were refined from living people. This process was extremely cruel, and it was as if the 3 souls and 7 spirits in a person's body were forcefully extracted. This is puppet transformation. Wei Mian paused for a moment before continuing. I believe that second young Master Qin should have been made into a human puppet by the people of Towering Wave Palace. But the strange thing is that not just anyone can be made into a human puppet. The process is extremely complicated and can't be completed in a short time. If second young Master Qin had only been on the floating island for a few months, it's reasonable to say that he couldn't have succeeded. At this time, Mu Yan had already given Qinzhou a preliminary treatment. But the situation wasn't ideal. Chapter 3392. Almost half of Chinjo's 3 souls and 7 spirits have disappeared. The center of his sea of consciousness is also bound by a rune. If it is forcibly destroyed, his entire sea of consciousness would be equivalent to being crippled. Even his external injuries cannot heal on their own because of the lack of his divine soul and spiritual awareness. Hearing Wei Mian's speculation, Mayan's eyes burst with a strong murderous intent. But now is not the time to seek justice from over the waves temple. Sixth sister, can second brother still be saved? Mayan says in a low voice, Shao Qi, go with General Wei to Monkey City again. Luo Yu stares blankly, now. Why? Do you still remember the soul-nurturing pond? Luo Yu ponders for a moment, then suddenly asks, fourth sister, the place where mother went to repair the soul. Mayan nods, you and General Wei go get some soul-nurturing pond water. Whether it is second brother or that Miss Shao Qing, they both need the soul-nurturing pond to stabilize their almost broken souls. During this time, I will stabilize second brother and Shao Qing's condition. Okay, I will go quickly and come back quickly. Luo Yu holds Chinjo's hand, second brother, you have to wait for me. Monkey City, outside the soul-nurturing pond. Ling Yuma looks at the little monk with a headscarf and scholar's clothes, and can't help but burst out laughing. Jing Yuan's fair cheeks flush, and he doesn't know what to do with his hands and feet. He subconsciously puts his palms together, wanting to say, Amitabha. Don't. Ling Yuma stifles her laughter and forcibly presses down his palms. If you do this, we will be exposed. I can't let people believe that I will find a little monk who has nothing but emptiness to be my lover, right? Jing Yuan's face turns redder. After a long while, he looks down at the hand that Ling Yuma is holding, and stutters, I know, female benefactor. Please let go, men and women should not touch each other. Pfft. Ling Yuma can't help but burst out laughing again. She doesn't know why, she clearly just met this little monk, but she especially likes to tease him. Especially seeing him at a loss, with his fair cheeks flushed, she can't help but laugh. She can't help but want to reach out and pinch him. Little monk, didn't you say that you wanted to pretend to be a couple with me? You didn't even call my name and said that men and women shouldn't touch each other. How do you expect the disciples of the Great Geese sect to believe you? Jing Yuan coughed lightly, may I know your name? My name is Ling Yuma. Ling Yuma did not keep him in suspense. She used her large knife to draw 3 words on the ground. Remember, don't make a mistake in the soul cultivation pool. Otherwise, if someone sees through you, you might be chased out. The little monk lowered his long eyelashes and stared at the 3 words for a while before he raised his head and said obediently, little monk, cough, I'll remember it. Ling Yuma thought for a moment, then said, you are called Jing Yuan. Is that your Buddhist name? It doesn't sound like a cultivator's name. Do you have a secular name? Why don't we change it for now? Hearing this question, Jing Yuan was stunned. He looked a little absent-minded and even sorrowful. Ling Yuma's heart skipped a beat, and she quickly said, if you don't remember your secular name, then forget it. Jing Yuan is also not bad, really. She knew that many little monks were homeless orphans and were adopted in the temple since young. It was normal for them not to know their secular name. Jing Yuan seemed to have recovered at this moment. The corners of his lips curled up slightly, and he slightly lowered his eyes. It's okay. It's just that it's been too long since anyone asked for my secular name, so much so that I almost forgot it. After a pause, he said in a deep voice, my name is Blood Moon. Before I became a Buddhist, my name was Blood Moon. Chapter 3393. Blood moon. Leng Yuma was stunned. She looked at Jing Yuan from head to toe, suspecting that she had heard wrongly. The little monk in front of her had red lips, white teeth, and tender skin. Just a slight joke would make him blush and flustered. No matter how she looked at it, it did not match with the cold-blooded and cruel name of Blood Moon. Moreover, this name was not ordinary at all, okay? It was even more eye-catching than Jing Yuan. Blood Moon, shouldn't it be the standard name of an assassin or assassin? Could it be that this guy used to be an assassin? However, looking at the little monk's crystal-clear eyes, his fair cheeks that were easily dyed red, and his delicate facial features that looked especially shy when he smiled, tsk, how does he look like an assassin? If she stood beside him, wouldn't she look more like a female bandit who forced a girl to become a prostitute? Jing Yuan felt uncomfortable being stared at by Leng Yuma, female benefactor. Cough cough, Yuma, can we go in now? Leng Yuma had heard from the people in the town that there were 3 checkpoints to enter the soul-nurturing pool. The first checkpoint was to test if the couple's minds were connected. The second checkpoint was to interrogate the disciples of the Great Goose sect, mainly to screen the moral character of the person who entered. If greedy people were to enter the soul-nurturing pool, it might cause unnecessary trouble. The third checkpoint was set around the real soul-nurturing pool. The people of the Great Goose sect would constantly supervise from the side to ensure that the couple who entered would not become enemies. Once the couple was no longer a couple, they would be politely expelled from the soul-nurturing pool. When she heard the content of the 3 checkpoints, Leng Yuma's mouth twitched. The founder of the Great Goose sect really wanted to see the couple get together. At the start, Leng Yuma was most worried about the last checkpoint. After all, she and the little monk were fake lovers. Whether they were connected or not, as long as the array checked, it would be clear. However, she did not expect that when the 2 of them walked through the array hand in hand, it did not cause the slightest ripple. We passed through so easily. I was clearly ejected just now. Leng Yuma looked at Jing Yuan in surprise. How did you do it? Or is it that as long as you bring a man in, the array will recognize you as a couple? Jing Yuan just smiled gently and didn't say anything. Leng Yuma tried to pull her hand away, but it did not move. Hey, little monk, we have already passed the first test. Do we still need to hold hands? Jing Yuan's gaze slowly fell on their intertwined hands. Only then did he feel the soft and warm touch and the thin calluses left on his palm from years of holding a saber. The little monk's fair and handsome face flushed with heat. He hurriedly let go of her hand and said incoherently, I'm sorry, little monk. Offended. I didn't mean to. Leng Yuma wanted to tease the little monk when she saw him like this. But before she could tease him, the sound of light footsteps came from not far away. Leng Yuma's heart tightened. She held Jing Yuan's hand again without hesitation and leaned forward. Jing Yuan's eyes widened and his body stiffened. He subconsciously lowered his head to look at their hands that were once again intertwined. It was as if he could hear his own heartbeat beating like a drum. Could it be that Miss Yuma? However, he had promised his master and second senior brother that he would convert to Buddhism and never touch the mortal world again. Moreover, the 2 of them belonged to different worlds, and he would leave the floating island sooner or later. Chapter 3394. But if he rejected her, would Miss Yuma be sad? In just a few seconds, the little monk's mind was in a mess. But at this moment, Leng Yuma whispered, pretend to be a couple with me. Someone is coming. Jing Yuan then realized that Leng Yuma wasn't. The little monk's face was so red that it could drip water. Are you the new couple? A clear and bright female voice rang out. Then, a man and a woman walked out. The man had thick eyebrows and big eyes. He was tall and strong, but he looked a little silly. The woman was wearing a military uniform and had a silver spear on her back. The two of them were very intimate, especially the way the man looked at the woman was full of love and pampering. It was obvious that they were a couple. Leng Yuma was surprised. Even the guards in the soul-nurturing pool are couples? I'm asking you. Why aren't you answering? Are you deaf or mute? The woman asked again. Leng Yuma came back to her senses and smiled. Senior, we are a couple. We want to enter the soul-nurturing pool. What's your name? Which sect or family are you from? Why do you want to enter the soul-nurturing pool? Leng Yuma said what they had discussed at the beginning. Jing Yuan didn't say anything. As she spoke, the woman quickly took notes, while the man stared at the two of them with his big eyes. When Leng Yuma stopped, the man turned around and said in a muffled voice. I'm lying, but I don't have any bad intentions. Leng Yuma's heart skipped a beat. It can't be. Could it be that this man could tell if someone was lying? Didn't that mean that her fake relationship with the little monk had been exposed? After the man finished speaking, he took out a token and handed it over. He smiled and said, everyone has their own little secrets. The Hongyan sect just wants to make sure that those who enter the soul cultivation pool are not greedy people. We don't want to investigate your privacy. Our secret technique can only detect if you're lying or if you have bad intentions, but it won't really probe into your secrets. Leng Yuma let out a sigh of relief. She smiled and reached out to take the token. Wait. We can't give you the pass yet. The woman suddenly spoke, giving everyone a fright. However, the man still obediently took the token back. Leng Yuma frowned. What do you mean by this? The woman snorted coldly and glanced at the two of them. She said coldly, I suspect that you two are not a real couple. Whoosh. Leng Yuma's heart was in her throat again. She forced herself to calm down and said, what do you mean? If we weren't a couple, how could we have passed through the array in front? The man couldn't help but say, Shu Yen, what they said makes sense. My intuition tells me that there isn't even the slightest hint of affection between the two of them. How are they a couple? That man didn't even dare to look at anyone the entire time. He was clearly afraid. Cold sweat broke out on Leng Yuma's back. What kind of intuition was that? He could even tell if they were lovers or not. The woman's scrutinizing gaze swept across the two of them once more as she continued, if you want to prove that you're a real couple, you just have to tell me how you met and fell in love with each other. If my husband feels that you're lying throughout the entire process, then it must be fake. Chapter 3395. This method was obviously very fair, so the man no longer objected. As long as the two were a real couple, they would definitely be able to describe the details of their relationship. Even if they had to hide some important information, with his secret technique, he would definitely be able to tell the truth. However, Leng Yuma and Jing Yuan could not do it. Because they were not a real couple at all. Not only were they not a couple, but they had also just met. The woman sneered, what? Can't say it, or do you not dare to say it? I don't care how you pass through the formation, but the soul-nurturing pool cannot be entered unless you are a couple. This is an iron rule. If you are not a couple, please leave as soon as possible. Jing Yuan slightly lowered his eyes and pressed his slender fingers on his waist. However, at this moment, Leng Yuma suddenly let out a long sigh and said dejectedly, I admit, we hid the most important thing. Jing Yuan paused and turned his head to look at her. However, before he could see Leng Yuma's expression clearly, his clothes were suddenly grabbed, followed by a strong force. Jing Yuan was dragged forward by Leng Yuma a few steps and was almost stuck to Leng Yuma. Then, he felt a chill on his head. The scarf on his head was pulled off, revealing his smooth head and the ring scar that could not be ignored. The two people from the Hongyan sect were instantly dumbfounded. And, monk. Ling Yuema's face was full of guilt. Now you know what I was hiding, right? Actually, his name is not Lu Jingyuan, but Jingyuan. He is a monk. The aggressive woman pointed at Ling Yuema with a face full of horror, then pointed at the little monk. You and the monk are, yes, we are a couple. Ling Yuema held the little monk's hand tightly, slightly lowered her eyes, and said shyly, I passed by the temple where Jing Yuan is, and fell in love with him at first sight. However, he has already escaped to become a monk, and we have to stop being silly and angry. Disturbing a monk's cultivation should be punished by the heavens, not to mention that his master is against us. Even if I know that we are truly in love, our feelings are not going to last for long. As she spoke, Ling Yuema's eyes were already filled with tears. The two people from the Hongyan sect were dumbfounded. Even the little monk turned his head and looked at him with a dazed and bewildered expression. I also thought of giving up. I thought that it would be better to continue our relationship in the next life. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime love affair. How could I give up so easily? Maybe it was my sincerity and persistence that finally moved him and made him willing to try and accept me. However, when he escaped to Buddhism, he swore to dedicate his body, mind, and soul to Buddha. Once he returned to the secular world, it was equivalent to betraying the original oath. His soul would slowly be eroded until he lost consciousness. I think that maybe the water in the soul-nurturing pool can repair his soul. Ling Yuema stretched out her hand and gently caressed the little monk's white and tender cheeks. Her voice was low and hoarse. Jingyuan, if it's possible, I'd rather bear all the pain and torture myself. It's enough to exchange my life for our love. The small monk tried his best to control himself so that the corners of his mouth wouldn't twitch and his face wouldn't reveal an expression that would expose him. At this moment, he really admired the woman in front of him from the bottom of his heart. How did she come up with such a story in such a short time? However, would that shrewd female cultivator really believe such an absurd story? Well said. Chapter 3396. In 1 second, 800 mail sign small divided by top net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. The female cultivator who was looking down on them just now walked forward and hugged Ling Yuema's shoulder. She said excitedly, little girl, what you said is too good. We, the children of the pugilistic world, should be free to love and hate. As long as you like a man, you should courageously chase after him. So what if he is a monk? Who said that monks can't return to secular life? I support the love between you and the little monk. If this little monk's master dares to make irresponsible remarks and obstruct you, you can tell me and I will take care of him for you. Ling Yuema smiled calmly, thank you, sister, but there is no need to trouble sister. Since it is a man that I like, I naturally have to chase after him, protect him, and guard him myself. How can I trouble sister? Good, good, good. Well said. The female's eyes lit up. She looked at Ling Yuema as if she had found a confidant. Why didn't I realize that sister was such a straightforward and unrestrained woman? You really suit sister's taste. I hate those pretentious women who look delicate on the outside but are full of evil tricks. The man beside her coughed lightly, Shu Yan, what she said just now. Many of them were lies. However, before he could finish his sentence, he was chased away by the female. Shoo, we women are talking, why are you interrupting? Sister, let me reintroduce myself. I am Lu Shuyan, this is your brother-in-law, Song Wu. We are both disciples of the Great Goose sect. I like you, so I will recognize you as my sister today. When you and brother-in-law get married in the future, you must call me. Ling Yuma smiled and nodded, all right. If Jing Yuan can recover his soul in the soul-nurturing pool, sister and brother-in-law will be our benefactors and matchmakers. How can you two be missing on the day of the wedding? Lu Shuyan smiled happily. She felt that this sister of hers was really to her liking. Song Wu, who was at the side, was anxious at first, then he could not help but let out a long sigh. He looked at Lu Shuyan with a helpless and doting smile. Let's go. Sister will bring you to the entrance of the soul-nurturing pool now. There were originally a lot of people queuing there, but I like you guys, so I will let you go in first. Ling Yuma pulled Jing Yuan's hand. What are you waiting for? Aren't you going to thank this sister? The little monk's face turned red, and a trace of redness appeared on his fair and delicate face. His long eyelashes slightly trembled, and after a long time, he said in a low voice, "Thank you, big sister." Her blushing face was young and pure, like the cleanest crystal in the world that had been dyed crimson with a gorgeous luster. Moreover, the little monk's appearance was far more handsome than an ordinary person's. Chapter 3397. Seeing Lu Shuyan, everyone gathered around her excitedly. Elder Lu, Elder Song, how long will it take for the next wave of people to fully recover? We've been waiting here for a few days already. Lu Shuyan rolled her eyes, without any enthusiasm towards Ling Yuma. She said impatiently, "If you're tired of waiting, why don't you just go out? Why are you shouting in my ear?" Cough, I'm just impatient. Last time, that old man and that old woman clearly came later than us, but they went in first. This isn't fair, right? Pfft. Lu Shuyan frowned. They entered the soul-nurturing pool to treat their illness. What about you guys? Do you think I don't know what you're doing in there with such minor injuries? My ancestors left the soul-nurturing pool to benefit the cultivators who might be separated by life and death, not for you shameless people to profit from. If you dare to talk nonsense again, do you believe that I won't ask my husband to throw you out? The few people who were shouting immediately shrunk their necks and kept quiet, afraid that they would really be thrown out if they said another 2 sentences. The injuries to their souls were negligible, so they came here to get some soul-nurturing pool water to sell. After rebuking these black-hearted merchants, Lu Shuyan smiled at Ling Yuma. "Sister Yuma, don't worry, there's a couple who will come out in 2 hours. At that time, you and the little monk can go in to treat your illness first." "Thank you, sister." Before Ling Yuma could finish her words of thanks, a cry of surprise came from behind. "Yuma! Yuma, is it really you?" Ling Yuma turned around, her eyes widened, and she said in surprise, "Grandfather, why are you here?" The person who called out to her was her grandfather, Ling Yaoshan, who had ascended to the floating island with Ling Wolin and Ling Jishuan. Ling Yaoshan saw his granddaughter, and his eyes turned red. Separated from the 2 worlds, he thought that he would never see any of his family again. Grabbing his granddaughter's hand, he looked her up and down. Ling Yaoshan's lips trembled, but he couldn't say a word for a long time. "Sister Yuma, didn't you say that you're a rogue cultivator without a sect? Why do you have a grandfather?" Before Ling Yaoshan could say anything, Lu Shuyan had already spoken suspiciously. Ling Yuma's heart skipped a beat, the cold sweat on her forehead almost dripping down. Before she could even give her grandfather a meaningful glance, she heard Ling Yaoshan say to Lu Shuyan with a face full of guilt, "Elder Lu, you might not know this, but my granddaughter's biological father is a terrible person. She ran away from home when she was young, and I didn't take care of her for a single day. Later on, in order to treat my daughter's illness, I abandoned her alone. As a grandfather, I have truly let her down. I didn't expect Yuma to be acquainted with you, Elder Lu." Chapter 3398. Abandoning him after using him, harming him. Your father is really a bad person. Younger sister, you have to keep your eyes open when you look for a man in the future. Even if this little monk looks kind and gentle now, you can't be captivated by his beauty. You may know a person's face, but not his heart. Who knows how many good men there are in this world? Song Wu, who was innocently implicated, could only rub his nose helplessly. He looked at Lu Shuyan with an indescribably gentle gaze. However, Ling Yaoshan's eyes widened when he heard that. You, what did you say? Yuma and this little monk are, or. Under the watchful eyes of Lu Shuyan and her grandfather. Ling Yuma bit the bullet and held the little monk's hand. Grandfather, this is my fiancé. This. Yuma, you just came to Fu. You just came here, how did you find a fiancé so quickly? Furthermore, he was a monk. No way. This matter must be considered at length. Ling Yuma felt a headache coming on. At that moment, the barrier in front of them flashed with white light, and a couple walked out with smiles on their faces. Ling Yuma felt as if she had been pardoned. She grabbed the little monk's hand and looked at Lu Shuyan. Sister Lu, my darling's injuries are serious and he can't hold on any longer. Please send us in immediately. As he spoke, he pinched the back of Jing Yuan's hand. The small monk's fair cheeks were flushed red. In the end, he stiffly leaned over and rested his head on Ling Yuma's shoulder, making a weak expression. Sure enough, Lu Shuyan, this enthusiastic person, no longer had any interest in investigating Ling Yuma's background. She directly pushed the two of them into the barrier. Is this the soul cultivation pool? He could feel the thin mist around him and the wonderful feeling of his soul being cleansed. Ling Yuma could not help but exclaim. A stream appeared in front of them. However, the water in the stream was not clear and transparent, but milky white. This is only the accompanying stream of the soul nurturing pool. It's not the real soul nurturing pool. Jing Yuan pulled Ling Yuma forward. Follow me, the real soul nurturing pool is in front. Sure enough, it was just as the little monk had said. As the two of them moved forward, the fog in the air became thicker and thicker. The color of the stream also became milky white and smooth. At the side of the stream, couples began to appear. These people usually didn't have serious soul injuries and only needed to be in this accompanying stream to recover. The deeper she went, the more anxious Ling Yuma became. Mother and Uncle Ji Xian are inside. Yes, if grandfather was here, then mother must be inside. However, at that time, her mother's 3 souls and 7 mortal forms were almost completely shattered. Could she really cure her? Be careful. Ling Yuma was in a daze and did not notice that the soil under her feet had become soft. His body tilted and fell into the milky white stream. Her waist tightened, and before she could use the spiritual energy in her body, she was pulled back. The tip of her nose smelled a refreshing sandalwood fragrance, and her body was pressed against a broad and firm chest. He could hear the faint thumping of his heartbeat. Ling Yuma raised her head. She heard the clear and gentle voice of the little monk. Yuma, are you all right? I'm fine. Her ears quietly turned red. It was rare for Ling Yuma to be at a loss of what to do. She pushed the little monk's chest and said with a forced smile, Little monk, you look thin and weak, but your figure is not bad at all. Thank you for just now. I was too engrossed in thinking and did not see my feet clearly. I will be careful from now on. Chapter 3399. After a pause, her voice inexplicably became somewhat bashful. Hey, are you done hugging? I already said that I will be careful from now on. The little monk suddenly came back to his senses and took a few steps back. However, he accidentally stepped into the stream behind him. Seeing his slow and bashful appearance, Ling Yuma could not help but burst out laughing. This time, it was her turn to reach out and pull him back. "I say, little monk." Ling Yuma reached out and patted his chest. "This lady isn't shy yet." "What are you shy about? If you continue to reveal such a beautiful appearance, this elder sister will be moved and snatch you back to be my husband." "No. Please conduct yourself, young lady." Ling Yuma raised her hand and lifted his chin. Looking at his fluttering eyelashes, the beads of sweat dripping from the bridge of his nose, and his slightly trembling lips, she wanted to tease him even more. "Conduct myself. This lady is very light, how can I conduct myself? Why don't you teach me, little monk?" As she spoke, she actually slowly approached the little monk's lips. Jing Yuan's eyes widened bit by bit as he tightly clenched his fists. If he wanted to retreat and push away the woman in front of him, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. However, as Ling Yuma approached, the tip of his nose smelled the unique scent of this girl. Open-minded, valiant, and full of vitality. It was a color that he had never seen before. It was like a ball of fire ignited in the coldest winter night, so warm, so bright. It naturally attracted people like him, eager to get close, eager to possess. The captivating red lips were just inches away, and they were getting closer and closer. A devilish desire suddenly arose in his heart. If he could capture her, would he be able to possess flames and light? No. Everything has its own laws. It was like a dream. Like dew and lightning, he promised his master that he would let go of the past and forget all his stubborn desires. Puchi. Just as Jing Yuan's heart was struggling like it was in a pot of oil, he heard the girl's uncontrollable laughter. "Really, it's not like I really want to molest you. Why do you have such a fearless expression on your face?" Ling Yuma gently patted his chest and tidied up his wrinkled clothes. She then smiled and said, "I was just teasing you. Why are you so scared? No matter how hungry I am, I can't possibly make a move on a little monk. Don't worry, your chastity will definitely be preserved, Master Jing Yuan." Jing Yuan's face turned red again, and his expression was one of grievance. There was also a trace of disappointment that even he himself did not notice. All right, I won't tease you anymore. Let's go to the soul-nurturing pool." She could not wait to see her mother. "Yumo." Just as the two of them were about to separate, a familiar voice called out from behind them. It was Leng Zhishuan. "Uncle Zhixian." Leng Yuma turned around excitedly. If Leng Zhishuan was here, then his mother must also be nearby. However, what greeted her was not the excitement and joy of reuniting with Leng Zhishuan after a long time, but the astonished and shocked expressions of the two of them. However, Leng Zhishuan was Leng Zhishuan. He quickly calmed down, walked forward with a smile, and looked her up and down. The surprise, astonishment, and joy in his eyes were all replaced by admiration. "I once said that you might become the greatest pride of the Leng family. Now that I think about it, I still underestimated you." Chapter 3400. Leng Zhishuan remembered that it had only been half a year since he took Leng Wuolan to the floating island. At that time, what was Leng Wuolan's cultivation level? It seemed that she hadn't even reached the leaving body stage. But now, she was already at the peak of the tribulation stage. From the nascent soul stage to the tribulation stage in half a year, how many people in the world could achieve that? Are you the only one who came to the floating island? Of course not. Ling Yuma shook her head. Junior sister came first, and I followed closely behind. Everyone should have arrived at about the same time, but we were separated. Ling Jishuan, he was speechless for a moment. Just now, he was still wondering how many people in the world could achieve that, but now Ling Yuma told him. What was this? For the Xiaoyao sect, this was nothing out of the ordinary. Ling Jishuan was stunned for a long time before he couldn't help but laugh. You must be anxious to see your mother, right? I'll take you there. He didn't ask what the relationship between Ling Yuma and the little monk was. Who was the little monk? He just smiled and led them forward while telling them about his experiences in the past 6 months. In the beginning, they weren't qualified to enter the soul-nurturing pool. Ling Jishuan accompanied Ling Wulan outside and took care of her meticulously. Then, he tried to pass through the barrier every day. Unexpectedly, on a certain day a few months ago, he suddenly succeeded. Ling Jishuan slightly tilted his head, not daring to look at Ling Yuma's eyes. Ling Yuma burst out laughing. Uncle Jishuan, we've already seen your affection for my mother in the cultivation continent. I'm more than happy that you can have a family and that my mother can find someone to rely on for the rest of her life. Are you worried that I'll break up the affectionate couple? Or do you want me to call you father instead? Ling Jishuan blushed and coughed lightly, impudent. There was a smile in his eyes, and after a moment, he said softly, Yuma, thank you. Thank you for agreeing to let me be with Wulan without any grudges. Thank you even more for bringing Wulan back alive from that hell. Mother. Seeing the person soaking in the spring, Ling Yuma rushed over excitedly and hugged her tightly. The woman in the pool looked somewhat similar to Ling Yuma, but she looked more mature. But his expression was as innocent as a child's. Who are you? Why are you calling me mother? Mother? Don't you recognize me? I'm Yumo. Ling Wulan tilted her head and her eyes seemed to be moved. Yumo. Yumo. What a nice name. I seem to have heard it somewhere before. Ling Jishuan's gentle voice came from behind. Under the restoration of the soul-nurturing pool, Ruolin's consciousness gradually recovered, but her memory seems to have been lost. And her mind has returned to when she was a child. Chapter 3401. Ling Yuma shook her head and said softly and sincerely, it doesn't matter. As long as mother can live well, I will be satisfied. Uncle Jishuan, I will have to trouble you to take care of my mother in the future. After saying that, she turned around and walked out of the pool without any reluctance. Yuma, are you leaving just like that? Ling Yuma turned around and looked at the two people who were snuggling together. Her lips curled into a bright smile. I came to the soul-nurturing pool this time mainly to see if mother has recovered well. Now that I have seen it, I should go find my senior and junior brothers and sisters. Uncle Jishuan, you and mother have your lives, and I also have my own pursuits. I just want to know that you are living well and living a happy life, that is enough. After saying that, she did not look at Ling Jishuan and Ling Wulan's reaction and quickly walked to the shore. Little monk, is this the place where you want to get the soul-nurturing pool water? After Ling Yuma asked, she found that the little monk did not answer for a long time. Suddenly, a hand touched her cheek and gently wiped away the water droplets on her face. These water droplets were all stained by the soul-nurturing pool. They hung on the tip of her eyebrows, the corner of her eyes, and the side of her cheeks like tears. The little monk's hand was not as rough and warm as other men's. Instead, it carried a jade-like warmth and coolness. Although it was obviously cold, it suddenly burned her whole face. Little monk, what are you doing? Ling Yuma grabbed the hand that was messing around on her face. When she raised her head, she saw Jing Yuan's pitiful and distressed expression. Slightly stunned, her heart suddenly jumped, and then she could not help but laugh. Little monk, are you afraid that I am sad? Don't worry, I am really happy for my mother. If she can live a happy life, what does it matter if she remembers me or not? I only need to remember that she used to love and give to me, and that is enough. Moreover, when did she not have anything? She still had the Xiaoyao sect and her fellow disciples. Thinking about being able to reunite with everyone soon, her heart was filled with joy and anticipation. Jing Yuan's mind was almost sucked into the pair of eyes that were even brighter than the stars. He only felt that the skin that his fingers touched was so soft and smooth, but it also burned his fingertips and soul. Ah! He actually touched Yuma's face. The small monk quickly retracted his hand as if he had been scalded. Thinking of what he had just done, he was so embarrassed that he didn't even know where to put his hands and feet. Ling Yuma had already thrown the strange feeling to the back of her mind. She patted him heavily and smiled. Let's go. You accompanied me to see my mother. Now it's my turn to accompany you to get the soul-nurturing pond water. The water here is already so rich, are you still not satisfied? Wait. In front of us is the core area of the soul-nurturing pool. If you want to leave this place in one piece, you better not trespass. The ones who stopped Leng Yuema and Jing Yuan were two men wearing the same clothes as Lu Shuyan and her husband. According to the rules of the soul-nurturing pool, only couples could enter. Ling Yuma could not help but size up the two handsome men from head to toe, and could not help but mutter in her heart. Another same-sex couple. It can't be, right? Are there so many people like fifth senior brother these days? Cough, did you two hear what we said? Ling Yuma came back to her senses and could not help but ask, the soul-nurturing pool is used to help people heal. Could it be that there is some kind of danger inside? Or could it be that there was some kind of treasure in the core area that the Hongyan sect was afraid of being stolen by greedy cultivators, so they sent people to guard it? Chapter 3402. As if they had seen through Ling Yuma's thoughts, the two of them chuckled with disdain. If you have the ability, you can take the things inside. It will save us the trouble of guarding this place all day, afraid that someone will accidentally enter and their soul will be destroyed. These words made Ling Yuma surprised. What exactly was it that could destroy a person's soul upon touching it? I know you want to obtain the purest and densest soul-nurturing pool water in the core area, but the price you have to pay is not something you can bear. I advise you to obediently return to the pool in front. The soul power in the water is already strong enough. However, the little monk's expression was gentle and shy, but his attitude was abnormally firm. In the end, the two people from the Great Goose sect coldly snorted and chose to let them pass. However, they looked at them with an unfriendly gaze. Since you want to go in, you will be responsible for what happens later. Even if you shout until your throat breaks, we will definitely not come in to save you. Although the words of the same-sex couple from the Great Goose sect were unpleasant to hear, Ling Yuma was not disgusted at all. This sect was really compassionate. Although the soul-nurturing pool only allowed couples to enter, they did not charge any fees. Even if someone wanted to take away the pool water, they would turn a blind eye. For such a dangerous place, there were even people guarding it, just to prevent people from getting hurt. This is the core area of the soul-nurturing pool. Seeing the scene in front of her, Ling Yuma was dumbstruck. Why is it completely different from the outside? There was a small pool in front of her, and the water in the pool was boiling. However, the water was not clear and transparent, nor was it milky white and smooth. Instead, it was scarlet red like magma. How could this kind of water nourish the soul? It was even possible to directly burn a person's 3 souls and 7 spirits. PFFF. Suddenly, a huge bubble burst at the side of the pool. Red water droplets splashed towards Ling Yuma. Be careful. Jing Yuan immediately reached out and pulled Ling Yuema to his side. However, a drop of water still fell on her sleeve. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Half of the sleeves of her clothes, which were enchanted with defensive attributes, were instantly burned off, revealing her fair arms. She could still faintly feel the scorching heat on her skin. What is this? How can it be so powerful? Ling Yuma looked at the little monk in shock. You want to take this water back to treat your master? Was this a cure or a death sentence? Jing Yuan also frowned slightly. I didn't expect that the soul cultivation pool here had existed for so many years, and it had been constantly cleansed by willpower, that it had developed a self-purification ability. All the purified impurities are deposited here. In other words, the purest soul-nurturing pond water he was looking for was in this terrifying blood pond. Jing Yuan said, Miss Yuma, please step back. Ling Yuma complied and retreated. The little monk took out a golden-red kasaya and draped it over his body before slowly walking toward the blood pool. Little monk. What are you going to do? Don't force yourself. Jing Yuan turned around and gave her a shy smile before stepping into the blood pool. Hiss dash. Ling Yuma took in a breath of cold air. Just now, he had only touched a drop of it on his sleeve, and it was already burned through. Wasn't the little monk playing with his life if he continued walking like that? However, at the next moment, a miraculous scene appeared. The little monk, who was wearing a kasaya, acted as though he didn't feel the heat of the pool. Chapter 3403. The little monk, who was wearing a kasaya, acted as if he did not feel the heat of the pool. He calmly walked to the center of the pool. Damn! Ling Yuma could not help but exclaim, is the little monk's kasaya a supreme treasure? Or was the little monk pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger from the beginning? Jing Yuan had already walked to the center of the pool. It was unknown when a golden alms bowl appeared in his hand. He slowly placed the golden alms bowl into the pool. The little monk put his palms together and slightly closed his eyes. He was muttering something. Then, the boiling pool water started to boil as if it was being roasted on a raging fire. The surrounding temperature suddenly increased by several degrees. Ling Yuma wiped the sweat off her face and took a few steps back. Her worried eyes were fixated on the center of the pool. Will the little monk be all right? As if to confirm her worries. A loud rumbling sound came from the blood pool in front of her. Ling Yuma watched as the center of the blood pool caved in. Jing Yuan's figure was instantly swallowed by the boiling pool water. Little monk! Ling Yuma shouted. Without thinking, she pulled out the red lotus soul-stealing saber and jumped up. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Suddenly, the saber in her hand trembled violently. A huge force came from the blood pool and pulled her down. What's going on? Red Lotus, is there something attracting you down there? Ling Yuma desperately wanted to pull the saber back, but the suction from the blood pool was getting stronger. Even her soul was about to be pulled out. Damn! Am I going to die here today? Ling Yuma cursed. She could not hold on any longer and was completely swallowed by the scorching heat wave. So hot. So painful. In a daze, Ling Yuma felt as if her soul was about to burn. The buzzing sound from the red lotus soul-stealing saber in her hand became more and more ear-piercing. The temperature of the saber hilt also became higher. Ling Yuma instinctively wanted to put down the saber. However, she realized something and held it tightly. Blood flowed from her hand to the saber hilt and slowly flowed down the saber blade. In the surrounding pool water, tiny red crystals began to gather on the saber blade. The red lotus soul-stealing saber, which already had a dark red luster, emitted a dazzling red light. One after another, red lotus symbols began to appear on the blade. The originally boiling red pool water actually began to cool down during this process and gradually stopped boiling. However, Leng Yuma was in so much pain that she wanted to die. She wanted to scream. He wanted to chop off his hand that was holding the knife. She even wished for nothing more than to immediately pass out and never wake up again. The pain of the soul being scorched was absolutely not something that the damage to the physical body could compare to. Just as Leng Yuma was about to collapse, she felt her body being embraced in a cool embrace. Something touched her forehead, her cheek, her lips, softly and tenderly. The cold liquid flowed down her burning lips, into her teeth, and down her throat. In an instant, the burning pain disappeared without a trace. Leng Yuma struggled to open her eyes. The first thing he saw was the little monk's worried expression. Leng Yuma suddenly sat up. "Little monk, are you all right? I saw you being swallowed by the blood pool." Jing Yuan looked at her in a daze. For the first time, his face, which was sometimes young and shy, and sometimes gentle and compassionate, was moved. Chapter 3404. Just because you were worried about me, you didn't even care about your own safety. Leng Yuma touched her nose and said embarrassedly, "I didn't think too much at that time. I didn't think about ignoring my own safety either. It was my saber that didn't listen to me." Speaking of the saber, Leng Yuma looked down and was shocked. "What the hell, this is my saber. How did it become so beautiful?" The body of the saber had already turned red. As spiritual power was injected into it, the red lotus was faintly discernible. From then on, she could clearly feel that the saber had become stronger than before. No. Not just the saber. Leng Yuma's eyes widened. She felt as if she had been hit by a pie. My cultivation broke through the peak of the tribulation passing stage and became a golden immortal. No way, how is this possible? I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't feel anything at all. Jing Yuan quietly hid his injured hand behind his back. As divine power surged, the wound healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. He pretended that nothing had happened and asked, "Did you enter the ruins of Wushang Palace before? This saber should have been obtained from Wushang Palace, right?" Wushang Palace. Leng Yuma was stunned. A vague and distant voice rang in her mind. "Feeling your passion in cleansing Wushang Palace, I taught you the Red Lotus Soul Stealing Saber and the Wushang Flame Technique. I only hope that the soul of Wushang will remain in the world forever." Jing Yuan looked at her expression and understood. Wushang Palace was a big religion in the ancient times. Only they could create treasures and techniques that could absorb the filth of heaven and earth. "I really have to thank you, Miss Yuma. If you didn't purify the soul-nurturing pool, I would have to go through a lot of trouble to achieve my goal." Leng Yuma then realized that the two of them were still in the pool, soaking wet. But the pool water was clear, emitting a dazzling seven-colored brilliance. "What happened? Bastard! Didn't I tell you that it was dangerous here? Why did you have to come in, eh?" Hearing the commotion, the Hongyi sect disciples who rushed and were stunned by the sight before them. The pool water stopped boiling. What was going on? Jing Yuan used a golden bowl to scoop up a bowl of water. Once the water entered the bowl, it vanished without a trace. Seeing the disciples of the Hongyan sect enter, he bowed to them gratefully. "Thank you, Hongyan sect, for bestowing the soul-nurturing pond water. This is just a small token of my gratitude. Please pass it to your sect leader." With that, Jing Yuan left behind a storage ring on the ground and disappeared with Leng Yuma. Leng Yuma looked at the sudden change in the scene in front of her and was dumbfounded. "How did we get out of the soul-nurturing pool? Little monk, could it be that you have a teleportation array on you? But that's not right. The two arrays can't be stacked. We're in the soul nurturing pond array, so the random teleportation array shouldn't be effective. Jing Yuan smiled shyly and didn't say anything. Seeing his reaction, Leng Yuma did not pursue the matter. Instead, she waved at him and said, "Little monk, now that our wishes have been fulfilled, it's time to part ways." The smile in Jing Yuan's eyes vanished in an instant. An unprecedented sense of loss welled up in his heart. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he felt that reunion and separation were impermanent, and they would eventually be separated. Leng Yuma also felt a sense of loss and reluctance. Following which, she couldn't help but want to slap herself. Leng Yuma, you have to be more careful." Chapter 3405. Remember in 1 second, 800 $say net. Although this little monk was a feast for the eyes, he was still a monk. Could it be that you are so hungry that you even want to covet a monk? Could it be that you are so hungry that you even want to covet a monk? She quickly suppressed the restless thoughts in her heart and smiled. "Little monk, let's say our goodbyes here, see you later." Before she could finish, Leng Yaoshan's angry voice came from behind. "Girl, you are too much. Even if you want to be with this little monk, you don't have to leave without saying goodbye, right?" "Leng Yuma, grandfather. Why are you here?" Leng Yaoshan was so angry that he blew his beard and glared. "Do you think I am such an unenlightened person? As long as you really like it, do you think Grandpa will object? Do you need to elope behind my back?" "Leng Yuma, grandfather, listen to me, I and the little monk are just, little monk. I am telling you." Leng Yaoshan had already turned to Jing Yuan. "If you dare to bully my granddaughter, I will not let you off even if I become a ghost." Jing Yuan's face was slightly red, as if he was at a loss. Finally, under Leng Yaoshan's interrogation, he nodded his head with a red face. "Little monk, why are you nodding your head?" Leng Yuma was going crazy. "Grandfather, it is not what you think. I am here to enter the soul nurturing pool." However, this time, she did not finish her sentence. Because a familiar voice came from afar. "Leng Yuma, you are too much. Do you want to escape just like that?" "Oh no." Hearing this voice, cold sweat seeped out of Leng Yuma's forehead. It was actually Lu Shuyan. Why did they chase after her? And from her tone, did she already know that she was lying to her? Leng Yuma laughed dryly. "Sister Lu, I am sorry, I did not mean to lie. Good sister, I did not misjudge you." Lu Shuyan slapped Leng Yuma's shoulder heavily, interrupting her words, then laughed loudly. "I did not expect that Sister Yuma and the little monk's cultivation is not high, but you actually have such ability. Even the scariest filthy place in our soul-nurturing pool was purified. Now, the soul power there was dozens of times richer than outside. Who knew how many souls could be repaired and how many lovers could be married? I have already reported this matter to the sect leader. He is overjoyed and wants me to bring you to the sect as guests. He wants to thank you personally. So he didn't expose them as a fake couple." Leng Yuma heaved a sigh of relief and the smile on her face became calm. Big Sister Lu is too polite. It was just a coincidence. Now that the little monk has recovered from his illness, it's time for us to go. Don't. Lu Shuyan pulled her back and repeatedly said, "Don't. Sister, it's not easy for me to meet someone as congenial as you. How can we separate like this? Come with me to the Great Goose sect. I'll ask the sect leader to preside over your wedding." Chapter 3406. Remember in 1 second, 800 $say net. Hey, little monk, what do you mean by not saying anything? Hey, little monk, what do you mean by not saying anything? This time, even Lang Yaoshan couldn't stand it. Do you really despise my granddaughter? I think you're tired of living, right? Jing Yuan hurriedly said, how could I despise Miss Yuma? It's just that when I became a monk, I swore to sever my ties with the world of mortals, convert to Buddhism, and never abandon it. Even though she had already expected it. Ling Yuma's heart was still inexplicably aching. She did not know what was wrong with her. She had only met this little monk by chance and had only known him for a few days, but it was as if a figure was deeply engraved in her mind and could not be forgotten. In the past, she did not believe in love at first sight. Now, she would rather not believe in it. When Jing Yuan said this, his body seemed to be surrounded by a holy Buddhist aura. It made people unconsciously believe that this was an eminent monk who was devout and devoted to Buddhism. Even Lu Shuyan and Lang Yaoshan momentarily forgot to speak. However, when he saw Lang Yuma's darkened eyes, the benevolent Buddhist aura around him instantly disappeared without a trace. At this moment, his mind had almost forgotten about his master, his senior, and the Buddha that he had sworn to believe in. He only wanted to rush over and hug the girl, making the sadness and disappointment in her eyes disappear. He wanted her to be as free and unrestrained as the sun, gorgeous and warm. Lu Shuyan suddenly came back to her senses and angrily said, little monk, are you fucking burning the bridge after crossing the river? My sister brought you into the soul-nurturing pool to heal your injuries, and now you're turning your back on us. Sister Lu, actually we are not a couple. Ling Yuma's voice suddenly sounded, interrupting Lu Shuyan's long-winded speech. What did you say? Ling Yuma revealed a guilty and helpless smile and looked at Song Wu, who was behind Lu Shuyan. I think brother-in-law has already seen through it, right? Thank you for not exposing us. Song Wu revealed a silly smile. I can see that you don't have any bad intentions. There was one more sentence that he did not say. Moreover, you two are very compatible. Lu Shuyan's eyes widened. Silly Song, can you explain it clearly? What do you mean you didn't expose them? What did you see? Ling Yuma told him about how she wanted to enter the soul-nurturing pond to see her mother, and how the little monk wanted to take the water from the soul-nurturing pond. Hence, they decided to pretend to be a couple. Lu Shuyan was dumbfounded. She was so angry that she almost exploded. Did it mean that she had been moved by their unparalleled love for nothing? Ling Yuma smiled and said, extraordinary times call for extraordinary things. However, the relationship between me and the little monk is fake. It is true that I recognize you as my sister. Lu Shuyan was still angry at first, but when she heard this, she couldn't help but burst into laughter. At least you have a conscience. I don't care if you have an unparalleled love with this little monk or not, I will still recognize you as my younger sister. Lang Yaoshan, on the other hand, was still glaring at her. Lass, is what you said true? Don't tell me you're still covering for this little monk after he dumped you. What infuriated Lang Yaoshan the most was that his granddaughter was so outstanding. Why did the little monk look down on her? What poor taste. What do you mean by Buddha having a granddaughter? Ling Yuma burst into laughter. Grandfather, I have only known the little monk for 3 days. Would you believe me if I said that I have deep feelings for him? We pretended to be a couple just to enter the soul-nurturing pond. We don't have any feelings for each other. On the contrary, it is all thanks to him that I can see my mother. Grandfather, you can't bite the hand that feeds you. Chapter 3407. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign /say net. There was no pop-up window for free reading. Lang Yaoshan snorted and didn't say anything. Ling Yuma turned to look at Jing Yuan and smiled. Little monk, we really have to say goodbye this time. Jing Yuan moved his lips and wanted to ask her if they really didn't have any feelings for each other. However, he didn't say it out loud. He put his palms together and lowered his eyelashes. His golden red kasaya made his skin look as fair as jade, but it was also cold. Ba. Miss Yuma, we will meet again. After saying that, Jing Yuan turned around and left. His footsteps were very slow, as if he could feel the girl's aura for a longer time. However, no matter how slow he walked, she would eventually disappear. He would never be able to see or feel her again. The pair of dim eyes unconsciously flashed in his mind. There was also the unconcealable sense of loss and attachment in those eyes. This farewell might be a permanent one. In the vast three realms, they would never be able to meet again. He didn't even have the chance to thank him for getting the purest soul-nurturing pond water for him. And when he saw that she was in danger, he rushed over to save her. Jing Yuan's footsteps stopped, and his eyes flashed with an unprecedented light. He suddenly turned around, as if he had forgotten that he could teleport and fly, and ran back the way he came. Leng Yuma looked at the back of the little monk in a daze. She suddenly felt as if someone had dug out a piece of her heart. She touched her face, thinking that she would feel some tears. However, there was nothing. She couldn't help but chuckle. She cursed in her heart, Leng Yuma, you've learned to be sentimental and pretentious now. How could a man that she had been with for 3 days be reluctant to part with? Who was she acting like this for? If it was a normal unmarried man, she would just give up all her reservations and chase him. However, he was a little monk who was devoted to Buddhism. Was she going to force him to return to secular life and make him give up his faith? Leng Yuma raised her head and looked at the blue sky. This time, she felt a trace of bitterness and pain in her eyes. Her heart was empty and uncomfortable. It would be great if her senior and junior brothers were by her side at this time. Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, third senior brother, fourth junior brother, little junior sister. Seventh senior brother. If only they were by his side, fourth senior sister. Fourth sister. Is it really you? Just as she was thinking about this, the young man's excited voice came from the sky. It came from afar, and in the blink of an eye, he was already in front of Leng Yuma. Leng Yuma suddenly opened her eyes, and what she saw was a handsome face with dimples. Fourth senior sister. Wow, it really is fourth senior sister. I've finally found you. Luo Yu came down from the flying puppet. Her feet didn't even touch the ground as she pounced forward and hugged Leng Yuma. Leng Yuma caught him. After a while, she heard her slightly hoarse voice, Shao Qi, why are you here? Fourth senior sister, why are you here again? Right, this is the soul-nurturing pool. Are you here to see Aunt Leng? Luo Yu knocked her head. I'm so stupid. Why didn't I expect to see you here? She listened to the young man's chatter, listened to his cheerful laughter, and felt his warm and sincere embrace. The bitterness and emptiness in her heart seemed to fade away in an instant. A smile slowly bloomed on Leng Yuma's face as she hugged Luo Yu back tightly. That's right. What did she have to be sad about? What was there to be sad about? Even without the little monk, she still had her senior and junior brothers and the Xiaoyao sect. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.